Okay, we are getting started. This is, by the way, our first episode of the season, of the year. And this is year number...
This is number 5, yeah?
I think it's 6.
Is it 6? Have we gone to 6 already?
I don't know.
Well, I teach history. I live in the past.
Never mind. You're right. It's 5.
I think it's 5.
From our producer. She just said, what are y'all crazy? Okay, so we are at Kollective Coffee in downtown Hot Springs, Arkansas. There's a couple students looking at us, or several more than that.
Hey, actually, we've got a really good crowd here tonight. You guys are packed in. Good job for you. We appreciate that.
At this point, we are going to ask you guys to come up and ask us a question, and Mr. Nixon will answer it.
Yes, joining us for the first time. You haven't been on the podcast before, have you? Did you join one of the ones at school?
Yeah, I did one at school.
Okay, but you haven't been to the live ones before, so.
No, this is the first.
All right, so welcome Jeremy Nixon, government teacher extraordinaire. All right, state your name, buddy. Let's hit it.
My name is Sam Herdlicka, and I have a question regarding a scenario type war. The 1906 British Empire versus the 1606 Spanish Empire. Equal technology and can call all territories/allies, and the leaders stay competent throughout the war.
Okay, you're going to have to repeat that.
And what's the dates again?
The 1906 British Empire and the 1606 Spanish Empire.
All right. And the question is? They both existed. Very good. Yes.
And hold on. Equal technology, and they can call all of their territories and allies, and the leaders stay competent throughout the war. Who would you say wins and why?
Oh, if they're against each other? I'm going to go... Are they going to have to stay in their 1600s technological zone, or have they advanced into the 1900s? Or am I making the British go back to the 1600s? We got to figure out what the parameters are here. We're going to bring them up? All right. With all the resources combined, 1660s Spain is about to go through massive upheaval inside their own system politically, and their trade is going to end. England is going to start taking away some of their wealth because of piracy, and so that's going to end up funneling some of the money away from them. Britain, with its empire intact and continuing to grow, they're about to take India not too long from, well, actually they already own India by that point, and with that vast wealth of resources, I think they dominate. Ta-da.
I concur.
Me too.
Very thoughtful question, though. I'm impressed. Yeah, we worked hard on that one. That's a good one to start with. Well, just out of curiosity, which one were you leaning towards? Which one did you want? There you go. All right, come on up.
My name is Andrew Cox, and I have a question regarding the Area 51 raid.
All right.
What impact do you think it will have if people actually show up and follow through with it?
All right, so are you going? I'm curious. Are you going to head out there? Are you one of the ones that's headed?
No, I'm
Hundreds
not.
of thousands of people perhaps may show up at the gates of Area 51 and demand entry. Now listen, do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah. I do.
Okay. Do you know how this started? Do you know how it started?
It's that documentary, right?
No, it was some guy. Right? Yeah, it was like some dude on Facebook or Instagram or something. Some guy's like, hey, man, wouldn't it be funny if we all went out there? They can't stop us all. Well,
Don't be the first person.
Let's ponder that, really, shall we? I saw an interview with the guy, and he was like, oh, I was just joking, and, like, people took me seriously. And so apparently it's a thing. So, anyway, all right, y'all go ahead.
So there's a documentary on Netflix about a dude who used to work out there. And these people didn't listen well because apparently there's nothing at Area 51. But there is something close to Area 51. That's what they should have been running towards from what I've heard. But I forgot the name of the documentary. You can go to Netflix right now and look at it. And it talks about Area 51. And this guy claims...
Did they move everything to Area 52?
Maybe so. But he claims he saw some stuff and, you know. But, yeah, I wouldn't be one of the first... I don't want to be in the first line. I'll be at the back.
I mean, people have been claiming that forever now.
Well, since
they've
I've
seen
been,
something, but
since I could learn about conspiracy theories, I think that was the first one I actually learned about as a kid. What's in Area 51?
I think more interestingly, we've had politicians that have been willing to go on late night TV and entertain it, though, because Bill Clinton was one of the first, and Hillary Clinton followed up with that.
Yeah, but Clinton was high, though. You can't count that.
Well, that's probably true. But, you know, do I think anything will come of it? No. I think it would take more politically active people than just, like, storming the
I'll tell you what, if you want to solve the divisiveness in our country and even the world, a good alien attack where the humans have to get together because there's another species coming to take over, we'll all be in the silver jumpsuits. Have you not seen sci-fi movies? I think that could unite us.
Oh, that's what it's going to
A
take?
good alien invasion.
Yeah, that might be
Okay,
the only
humans,
thing.
we got to get together and work together on this.
All right, so to answer the question completely, you said what would happen if they did show up. I'm actually, when is this supposed to happen? I don't know the timeline. So soon. All right, so I saw a guy from the military who was being interviewed on I don't know what news channel, and the guy said the exact question that you asked me is like, what are you gonna do if all these people show up? And the military guy said, I need people to know that you should never approach a military installation without permission. I don't care how many of you there are. We will defend it. So there's that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm interested to see it kind of happen. I kind of hope people show up. I kind of hope it happens. I mean, that dark-minded person that lives in the back of my head that kind of likes catastrophe a little bit, like, yeah, go for it. Let's see what happens. Hit it, millennials.
Is that our well-armed militia?
Yeah,
That's the well-armed militia.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're with their cell phones running, trying to take pictures as they go.
All right, yeah. Good job.
All right, next question. State your name and what is your question?
My name is Marshall Ellis, and which is the more overrated empire, the Mongol, the Spanish, or the Soviet Union?
Back to Empire. Most overrated, you said?
Not the Mongols.
C.
Oh, you're bilingual. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, not the Mongols. That was right.
What's the other two? Mongols, Soviet,
The
and
British Empire. The Spanish Empire. Let's just throw British Empire in there just for
oh,
fun.
the Spanish. Well, they were great for a minute,
Yeah.
but they went away quickly for several reasons.
I think
I
someone
would-
just loves Spain and Britain in the audience. That's what it is, right? Sam.
Uh,
Oh, just Britain. All right.
Yeah.
Spain had the shortest run, right?
Yes.
Spain.
Yeah. Mongols. Oh man, freaking Mongols! Like those boys come rolling out. They were nobodies. You know what I mean? They were just out there doing their thing, kicking around. You know, milking goats and shooting yaks and flying their falcons and things. You know, messing with the Chinese every now and then. But the moment that they pulled together under Genghis Khan, like 1202 moment, dude, they became impressive.
Largest land empire
if
ever
I'm-
formed.
All right, so if I'm talking about this as rapid expansion and control over massive amounts of territory and numbers of people with sheer domination for like 200 and something years, that's, you know, I got to kind of lean in that direction. Britain is like slow and steady though, man. So I don't know. I think I may still give them the edge.
And they had morals.
And well,
There was ethics involved. They didn't just slaughter people by the millions.
well, yeah.
It's
Wait a
sliding
minute.
scale of morals.
You got. We can.
I mean, but
I was gonna say,
Genghis
ask
Khan,
ask
I-
India. What are you talking about? That's not.
you should look up, okay, besides Genghis Khan's children, or Genghis is actually how you pronounce it, but you should look
Genghis.
up, he seems like he has another world record as far as like killing the most amount of people in the shortest amount of time with bows and arrows.
I think that's actually Tamerlane, the guy that comes after him, dude rolling out of Samarkand.
But they they did form the largest land empire.
Yeah, contiguous, right? Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you
Spain.
look at it. Yeah. All right. Awesome. More empire questions. All right. I see a theme developing. All right. This is gonna be a good question. I can tell. You look ready.
My name is Kendall Webb, and I was wondering what you thought of Representative Elaine Omar's statements yesterday regarding the 9/11 attacks when she said that some people did something 18 years ago, and then a 9/11 father of a victim kind of put her on blast. I was wondering what you thought about that situation.
Didn't we have something else very similar to that earlier where somebody said some people did some things?
Well,
that was yesterday?
That was her. She said
Yeah.
it. She said it a while ago. She may have repeated it yesterday. I don't know about
So
that.
it was her a few months ago said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think context is one thing that we kind of lose in the 24-hour news cycle. I don't know the question that she was asked leading up to it. I would like to think that she was ill-spoken at best. Okay.
Oh, it was part of a speech. Okay. I didn't actually hear the comments, but I know what you're talking about. I saw kind of blips on it. So.
I want to do what journalists should do, and I will just refrain from saying my opinion until I get more information.
Yeah, that's a good.
I mean, I could-
a good thing.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. She's had a history of saying things that are, pushing some boundaries for sure. I understand that she's bringing a fresh perspective in, and especially when we start talking about the Israeli-Palestinian issue, when we haven't had anybody in this country in particular who stood and in any way, shape, or form tried to defend anything about the Palestinian issue. It's like we've been pro-Israel since Israel became Israel. You know what I mean? I mean, we kind of helped that along. We'll actually study that a little bit this year. So I wonder what the root of that was. Again, I'm not going to make a valued sort of judgment call on that right now because I don't know everything about the statement and the context in which she said it. And so, but again, kind of knowing where she leans definitely towards, well, let's look at the other side too. I think what we can do best to come out of that, though, instead of saying, well, we're going to like trash her out for saying anything that's slightly negative towards Israel, I think that to have that a larger conversation about what are we doing, what is the actual situation on the ground in Israel, do we have any room in our minds where we think about a true two-state solution? Trump's even said that before. Like President Trump has actually said there's probably a two-state solution at work, and that's unusual to hear somebody say. So I don't know.
And that sounds like a very
it makes me
gotcha
curious.
Small soundbite. It would be great if we could go. Could you clarify what you mean by that and let her give her a few more minutes to explain exactly where she was going with that?
Yeah, it's the optics of it, or in this case, the audio of it, sounds bad, especially on the day that we're talking about. Some people did some things. Well, no, radical Islamic terrorists crashed planes into buildings and killed thousands of people. So I don't see how you dance around that. So it makes me a little, I cringe a little bit to think about how she phrased it, but I'm curious as to why she chose it that way. That would be the bigger question to me.
Yeah, I don't want her to back away from being a voice for a two-state solution or for the Palestinian people, because we really don't have that in our government at the moment. Democrats and Republicans try their best to cozy up to Israel at every chance, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but I do think that we need to listen when people give an alternative as well. So.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that. I think you're right.
Okay, next question.
All right, awesome. Welcome, young student.
State your name and ask a question.
So my name is Sarah Nutt, and my question is, if you could solve any of the mysteries of this world, what would it be?
Mystery. That's a good one. I mean,
when I was a kid, I had a Frisbee. And I really liked it because it was really super cool. It was one of those, it was not like, it wasn't actually a Frisbee. It was like this, they called it an Araby. It had this like metal disc in the middle of it. And one day I went looking for it and it was gone. So I would love to solve that mystery specifically. Where's my freaking Frisbee? I don't know. That's the first one that comes to mind. All right, so what are we talking about here? You have...
I mean, I like the big astrophysicist kind of questions.
Yeah.
Like, is the universe infinite? Is there a multiverse? I mean, I got a ton of stuff like that. That kind of stuff. The big questions. Why? How did it all start? What's before the Big Bang, if there is a Big Bang? If not, what was there? And
was there a little bang leading up to the Big Bang?
I don't know. What happens when you go down a black hole? I've got plenty of them. But I don't know.
Yeah, Sarah, where'd you go? Did you have one in particular that you were curious about that we could talk about? Because, I mean, there's so many to choose from. Like, what happened to Amelia Earhart? I think they've kind of figured that one out, though. We're nailing that one down. Yeah, they're finding, like, ideas that she was in the, out in the islands and she didn't make it out. So, again, did you have one specifically that you were curious about?
Well, my favorite one is probably the story of Atlantis, just because, like, it'd be really cool if that were true.
Are you into mermaids and things, hoping that that's real?
No, I just really like the story and the idea of it.
Yeah. Yeah, like what happens to people in those times before we had a lot of stuff written down? I think if we're going back to the American story, maybe the lost colony of Roanoke. That's always a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what happened to those boys? They just disappeared. I don't know if you guys know about that one or not. Did y'all talk about that in other classes? The colonists that were here in America before Jamestown, and they just vanished. I've heard
We
people.
talked about it.
What do you
to
take?
share?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no real solution. There's still people studying that. I assume some Native Americans came out of the woods and went to town, threw everybody in the ocean,
Yeah.
but nobody knows for sure.
It's not impossible to believe. I've heard they go, mystery, what happened to them? Well, America was a giant wilderness. It's not unacceptable to think that maybe those few colonists were just swallowed up by whatever natural, forces were around them, natives or otherwise.
What is the most important conspiracy? Is it the JFK assassination? Does that seem to have most traction as far as kind of people think there's got to be more to it?
Yeah, probably. JFK, the Lindbergh baby case. Did they ever solve that?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Most kids aren't going to know that probably. Who was there really that giant conspiracy, or was Lee Harvey Oswald by himself? I would like to know that.
Is the Earth really round or is it flat? Is that one? I hope not.
Can I jump off the edge if it is flat? What happens to me if I do?
Okay, very good.
right.
Next question. State your name and your question.
My name is Mari Ford. My question would be,
Okay.
how different do you think the world would be if the Library of Alexandria did not burn down?
Oh, man.
Well, we would know more. I don't know that the world would be much different, but I bet we would know more about ancient times.
Yeah, can you imagine being able to visit the library with all the accumulated knowledge from the known world at that time? Dude.
Maybe we would definitely know the pyramid story and
Yeah, maybe.
even before.
And what
Yeah.
happened to Atlantis?
I think it would fill in gaps. I don't know that it would be like a propelling thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Awesome. All right, come on up.
I wish we could predict that one, but yeah, that's a tough.
Yeah, I would really love to be able to see it. They had more stuff there than that library. They had like a whole. It was like this university style system. They had zoological parks, and they had all kinds of places where people would meet and they would share ideas, and it was this interesting hub of internationalism. It was very cosmopolitan. So anyway, all right, hello.
Hi, I'm Adrian Steelman, and in your opinion, do you think that there's more than 3 dimensions?
Time is the 4th dimension, so there's one.
Yes. String theorists, I think, are at right now saying 13.
What?
13 dimensions is their prediction. They change it a little bit, but it's been around.
Dude, we're being
13.
cheated. We only have 4.
So we can sense space up, down, side to side.
Yeah, why haven't I heard this? This is
Oh, really?
13.
You're just making stuff up now. What do you?
No, I'm into this kind of stuff. You know how many hours of podcasts I listen to about this stuff? I don't know what they are, and neither do string theorists who are working on this. But, Einstein predicted that time is relative, and that could be a dimension. If it is, by the way, here's a little piece of information. If time is a dimension and it's relative, by the way, Einstein has not been proven wrong yet. Every time travel movie where they go back and change something has to be wrong, because if you could move through your own timeline like we move through space, you're always dying, you're always being born. Then if you go back in that timeline, whatever you did, you have always done. So there's no way you could actually change it, because if you changed it then, you have always changed it. And that happens with everybody.
Dang. That's sad.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
13, final answer.
Okay, here's rather than being able to experience multi-dimensions, which sounds actually pretty cool. Here's what if people go, oh, would you like to have a superpower? You know what I would really wish that I could do? I wish that I could see more spectrums of color and light. I think that would be really freaking cool, right? Be able to sense energy fields around people, just to be able to see ultraviolet. Right?
What's
Just
that? What's
imagine
that
how that would
sea
change
animal
our.
that has that can see the most? Anybody know? Sea animal, huge eyes.
Oh, the squid?
No,
Giant
there's
squid,
a
no?
certain. Oh, y'all know
I don't
this.
know.
What is that sea animal that sees more rays of light? So when they see, like we see red, they see 20 reds or whatever, 10 different types, and they see stuff we can't possibly see.
It's a shrimp?
It is a shrimp, yes. Something about rods and cones.
Wait.
I don't know.
Well, that's wasted
That's
on
new to
them.
me.
That's
I did
stupid.
not know that.
Who gave them that power? That's dumb.
I don't know. We got more than like dogs, though, right? So
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
sad
something
too.
to be thankful for. Well, see, I thought it'd be thankful for you, right?
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, comparatively speaking, I just feel like it's
We don't want to see too much.
Well, that's true too.
Ignorance is bliss, right? Okay, next question.
My name's Carly Orr, and I was wondering, do you think that we choose our own fates?
Oh, free will. Okay, I'll tell you what neurologists think. They don't know. This is the big battle in neurology is, do we actually have free will? For instance, if you are meditating and you want to focus on your breath and you really try hard, probably for most of you, within a minute or so, a thought is going to pop into your mind. So where did that thought come from? Did you make a decision to think that? Okay, so this is kind of, for instance, we can hook you up to what's called an fMRI machine. And if we told you, ask you a question, a yes-no question, the machine would pick it up before you even consciously make the choice. So there's some evidence that there is no free will, that you're just, if that's true, and this could bring us to our evil conversation, like somebody go, well, if I was Hitler, I would have never, well, actually, if you were Hitler with his brain and his DNA, you would have done exactly, because you wouldn't have control over it. So now, that's one school. The other, of course, there's just as many. This is the big battle, actually, in neuroscience right now, I believe, is the question of free will. We, by the way, whether we have it or not, we live like we have it. We actually consciously try to make choices. You know, you get up, I need to work out. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Well, I think it's almost ignorance is bliss. Like, we like to think we have it because that gives us more control, even though it's an illusion.
We have to live like we have it, and we
right.
teach our children they have it. You
Yeah.
know, we make good choices. So it's very important that we live and teach others as we have free will. But
I don't like the idea that I might be somebody's puppet, though. Like, where'd that thought come from? Somewhere deep in the essence that is me, that was generated up. So, like, okay, we just studied something actually kind of interesting that ties in with this in Euro. We studied a guy named Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, and he argues about, he argues about the concept of free will and why he argues that we have it. If you take sort of a Christian motif, which he did, the idea that they believed in this great chain of being and that, God was on top and then there's all the things beneath him in the hierarchy of heavens, and then you came down to man, and then you came down to the lower animals and da-da-da. So there's all these spectrums of things that could happen. He suggests, using scriptural evidence, that because God created everything, and again, I'm using his terms, you don't have to believe what I'm saying. He created everything, and everything was set in place, and so therefore it was perfect, and nothing needed to change, and then he decided to add people in. The system was already set, so we're like this addition too. Nothing in the system, according to what he was saying and how he interpreted the scriptures, has free will except us.
Yeah.
So that puts us on a different level, which is part of the whole Renaissance idea about we are humans and we can do great things, and so it kind of fits in with the time frame.
That's the first Great Awakening.
Yeah.
If you're in my pre-AP class, we talked about this today. First Great Awakening, that's when free will was induced into the situation, and a lot of the Puritans thought, we're not predestined, we actually have choice. So, yeah.
What if we're predestined to have choice?
Would you stop?
I don't know. I don't think I can. All right, come on up there.
State your name and the question.
My name's Will Ross. 9/11 was yesterday,
Yep.
and Osama bin Laden was killed around 8 years ago.
Okay.
What were your thoughts and reactions to whenever Obama broadcasted that Osama bin Laden had been killed?
What was our reaction to the news of his death?
For me, I think had I lost somebody in 9/11, had I been in New York, had it been more personal, I think there might maybe some closure. Like, that's over. We tied it. But he was already so far hiding under a rock for years. He wasn't living the dream. I guess I'm glad. I don't want him to do it again. So, it's weird to say that I'm glad somebody died, right? But at some point, it could also be morally wrong to not take out someone.
Well, I think it has more value as a collective catharsis than an individual one. So I don't know that I personally had any strong emotional reaction to it.
Yeah,
had it been closer to the actual event, I think we would have all had a stronger, because we had a lot of emotion after 9/11. But this was years later, right? So 10 years after,
I think that for any of us who lived through the event, whether you were there or not or had loved ones there or not, I think there's got to be some sort of sense of at least relief that, oh, that was accomplished, and maybe this guy who influenced other people to do bad things can no longer do that. That doesn't stop the entire system. And so if there were celebrations, I think they were premature because the ideology hasn't died with just because that guy stopped breathing. And so I think that the bigger question is, how do we continue to win hearts and minds? I hate to use that term, but how do we try to ensure our safety moving forward? I don't know how much of a threat he still was. That doesn't take away the fact that he probably needed to be subdued. I think I was like, well, okay, good. Next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready?
My name's Lilly Moritz, and I'm here to lighten the mood.
All right, good.
So I wanted to ask if you know about Visco Girls.
Oh, no.
Say it again.
It's called Visco Girls.
Visco?
Yeah.
Like Nabisco? Like the cracker? Nabisco?
It's like.
Oh,
Yes,
Nixon's
I
nodding.
know what
Okay,
it
no,
is.
I don't know what that is. You have to tell me.
It's like the new trend of the basic girl.
Oh.
You know, like they wear like oversized T-shirts and scrunchies, and they'll drop their water bottle. They'll say, and I oop. And they'll say.
Wait, okay, so these are typical females?
Yeah, like like it used to be like Starbucks. They would have their
Yeah,
Starbucks,
yeah.
and they would wear like
Okay, so-
Uggs and leggings.
All right, so where's the word originate? Do you know?
It's like a photo editing app, and
Oh.
so it would pop up like all the
Oh.
girls doing the same things to where it
Yeah.
became a trend.
So they've become a meme in their own right.
They've become a meme in like their own cult.
Are they like the
Okay.
hipsters? Or
No.
just average?
No.
Is it a derivative of hipsterism?
They like to
Does it come
tease
out of
me
that
because I
somehow?
carry a water bottle, and they say that I'm
All right,
one
wait,
because
how
I
do
have
you,
a
how
water
do you know about this? I'm curious. Like,
kids, because I have a water bottle that I drink out of, and apparently that is one of the.
Oh.
I don't know.
Like the lakeside one, the white one you
Yeah,
get.
yeah,
like
yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
the teachers got it, the kids were like, "Say and I oop."
Yeah.
Like, cause if you drop it, that's what they'll say.
I've
like-
heard people
like
say that, but I didn't know the joke. Okay, so now you are enlightening me. That's good. I appreciate that.
Hey, let me ask you this. With all this technology we have, why, a couple years ago, did a trend start happening where people would take a water bottle, and if it landed correctly, they run out of the room like they saw a ghost? Oh!
Don't
A water
remind
bottle.
It takes a lot of technique.
Don't
and
remind
physics.
them.
I mean,
That started off as an internet thing, right?
Yeah.
Somebody on the internet did it. Everybody else was like, "Oh, we must do that too. We must be like them."
That sounds like something I would have done in 5 years old. Just keep trying that. But now it's like a thing. Or I guess it is.
No, I actually saw somebody do it this year. Not very many, but it was a thing. I guess, was it last year that it was so big?
I don't know.
Or the year before? It was huge.
Don't do that in my class.
Yeah.
It annoys me for some reason. Somebody.
okay, that was my question.
Yeah,
All right,
oh,
good
okay.
job.
Yeah, well, cool. All right, well, thank you for bringing that.
Next.
All right, my name is Braxton Morrison, and I was going to ask your favorite conspiracy, why, and explain it.
Favorite.
Or most interesting to you.
Okay.
Oh, do you
What's
have
mine?
one?
I don't know mine.
I mean, when we talked about the JFK one, I think a lot of people, especially when I get through and I start teaching about that time period, you do have to, that's when Oswald got shot, and when he's like, "Oh, I'm the patsy," and then he gets shot by Jack Ruby, that opened up some questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's my favorite. I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
use the simplest answer.
I'll tell you the one I like to argue with people about because they're so passionate. That flat earth thing we mentioned a while ago, the people who are like, "No, bro, flat earth, and I'm going to prove that to you." Like, I got friends I have adult friends who are like, "Let me tell you something. I've got this information that you need to have this information." That's they're behind it. Like that, they get so caught up in that. It's amazingly ignorant and yet entertaining at the same time. So I think that's why I like that one.
Connor, were you talking about Rasputin? Is that what you're talking about?
Wait a minute. You may not be able to go down that road.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're not going to go
All
that
right, we'll do that on History After Hours, late night edition.
Late night. All right.
All right. Thanks, bud.
If I think of a conspiracy theory, I'll let you know. But
My name is Sam Erdelka, and I have a question regarding, would Germany's Third Reich be better off having Yugoslavia or Turkey? Just, you can substitute it for Italy. Would they be better off having them as an ally rather than Italy?
Italy was a bad choice towards the end. I don't know, though, but what was interesting about that is Mussolini inspired Hitler. So I don't know that you could have avoided that, because that's the one thing that kind of got him into it. So my opinion is anybody would have, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of Yugoslavia, which wasn't a country at the time. Romania, Turkey. Turkey would have been probably better fighters. Mussolini just messed up so much towards the end. Of course, we didn't help, when we took over North Africa and invaded. But yeah, Hitler had to bail out Mussolini constantly towards the end. If he could have focused more on Russia and us, it would have helped. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of counterfactual stuff. If
Hi, my name is Michael Morgan, and my question is, do you think Alex Cortez's New Green Deal will work?
I don't know that one. Alex Cortez's New Green Deal. Is it similar to the other Green Deal that AOC had?
No, yeah, AOC, yeah. Okay, do I think it'll work?
Oh.
Yeah.
Alex Cortez, I'm like, who is
I don't.
that?
Okay,
Gotcha.
so the New Green Deal, to my knowledge, was a statement of intent, which is we need to take a hard look at what we do and do an audit of the system and what can we do better. I think that was the push of it ultimately. I don't know that it was honestly about, well, we need to ban cows. I've heard people take that though. I've heard pundits jump on that and go, well, they're gonna ban cows and we can't fly on planes and they're gonna do this thing. I really don't think that was ever the intent. I mean, I don't know her, but I think that sometimes people say extravagant things in order to start a conversation at least. And so I think that served that purpose, but I don't think that some of the things she was calling about, do we need to curb greenhouse gas emissions? Yeah, somehow. So, I mean, let's look at everything and see if there's something we could do. But banning stuff, I don't think that's ever, I don't know how you would do that worldwide anyway. Yeah, right.
Well, it didn't really call for that to begin with.
Well,
it was
right,
more
yeah.
aspirational.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But the logistics of actually carrying out something like that wouldn't be feasible. But I don't think she ever actually called to, ban hamburgers.
No, I don't know. But I think people took that and ran with that and made it into that statement somehow.
Yeah.
And the problem with any solutions to the climate thing, the United States, we could go full bore. We could spend trillions, let's do it all, and it's not going to make a dent unless other countries step up. Now, you could make an argument we could lead the way, and that would encourage other countries to help out, but it's got to be a coalition, and it might have to get bad before other countries decide they're going to do what we can, I mean, first of all, I was probably just thinking off the top of my head, but there are certain things where humanity is going to need to get together and do something quickly. And aliens is one, but, let's put that to the side. Asteroid is a real thing, a real threat. Anything 5 miles wide and over. Every time you see a falling star, that's not a star, okay? That's a piece of space junk. It's a rock. It's whatever. It's a meteorite, as they call it. So, but that's a real threat that's always happening, and we can't survey the entire sky. So that's one thing. It could have killed the dinosaurs, right? Global warming is becoming more and more of an issue as we dump, millions of gallons of ice. That could change our currents, and you've seen the movies. Super flu, or a virus that obviously we're getting more and more immune to our antibiotics, and we're not creating anymore. But some major, like the Spanish flu of 1919 that killed way more than World War I did, that's a real thing. AI was my other one, artificial intelligence.
Isn't overpopulation one of your big list of things too?
It used to be. It used to be. Think about this population, people. When Teddy Roosevelt was president, 1901, there was roughly 2 billion people, a little bit less, on the whole planet. Now there's 7.5 billion in just 100 years. As a matter of fact, if you add up everyone who ever lived before 1900, I think that's the stat, or maybe it's 1800, but either way, add them all up, it still doesn't equal how many people we have walking around now that are alive on the planet. So add all from Moses to Jesus to Alexander the Great, all the way up to, George Washington. Add all those people up, we have more people walking alive on the planet right now. So That used to be a thing. However, new science says we're going to level off about 9 billion.
Level off?
That's if we keep civilized and it's just civilization.
That's an interesting way of saying people are going to die.
Well, we're having less kids.
We're going to level off.
So the population is because people are getting older, right? Yeah. Although, congratulations.
Yeah, we're declining.
We're
right?
declining for the first time in. Now it's mainly suicide rates, unfortunately. But yeah, life expectancy for the first time ever actually has went down the last 3 years. So we did it.
Goals.
But so population used to be one of my big concerns. But of course, that also deals with global warming, right? If there was only 1 billion people on the planet, it wouldn't matter how much coal we use because we wouldn't use near as much. You know, you could reduce the number to 1 million people, everybody could drive their own tank. It wouldn't matter. There'd be plenty of bald eagles because, you know, there's not as many people killing them. So it just, population does affect everything, right?
So are they saying that 9 billion is the tipping point?
Now that's where we're going to level off.
Oh. All right.
If we make it. All right.
Very
Everybody
good.
scared?
Come on up now.
Let's wait till artificial intelligence turns us all into robots.
AI.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Cadence Barnett, and I was wondering, what do you think is the most important thing that we should learn in high school?
Toxic relationships might be one. How to get out of toxic people that are around you that are bringing you down. But there's a million things.
I would say how to deal responsibly with failure. How to deal with the fact that you're not going to be the best at everything. I know a lot of students who put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they just don't know how to learn from the fact that they might fail at something. I can't fail. Failure's not an option. Folks, failure is an option. It just is in life, and you learn from that. So I think that the idea that you should never fail, that you can't learn from that's not part of who you are, like I think you're limiting yourself as a person, and you're adding undue stress into your life. Like you need to be stressed. You need to deal with that, but you need to have appropriate amounts of, right? And when things don't go well, back up, evaluate, move forward. Toxic relationships can be one of those things that you...
I think you need the ability to walk up to people, you know, that you're either going out with and it's not working. And if they just change this one thing about them, they'd be perfect. They're not going to change that one thing, okay? So having the ability to walk up to your friends or whoever your boyfriend, girlfriend is, and it's not working, just going, it's been fun, but goodbye, and then you just walk away. That would be a good skill. And also, of course, don't get in debt. No debt.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Marshall wants me to say filling out his allowances on his W-4 because he just learned how to do that. But I really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that's...
You're forced to learn some of that on the fly. But don't go head first into horrible college tuition debt just because your friends went to college. Now you're $60,000 in debt, you didn't graduate, and now you're chained to a job because you got to pay these bills. So think about that, debt.
All right, so we're talking about life skills. What about academically? Let's broaden that out to include academics. What do you for your, because you do with juniors and seniors, right? And I do too, and Nixon does as well. Like what do you think should be like the singular? Is there a singular thing, or do we need just that well-rounded, humanities, right? You need to learn a little bit of everything.
It's going to be skill-based, right? It's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't talk about a specific subject, but learning how to write.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Read
Communication and writing.
Yeah, being able to speak in front of people with confidence, and that'll get you a job.
I still
one
suck
day.
at that. Horrible.
So speaking and writing, long form. Get your thought. That's 3 best ways to learn. I know I say this all the time. Teaching something, because you got to do a lot to teach it, and you'll remember a lot of it. Writing out, like essay, this is why you do papers, and then debating with somebody, because you've got to defend your position. You'll remember more. Notice I didn't say just reading, because you don't remember a whole lot of what you just read unless you're super interested in it. So,
being able to defend something that you've said, yeah. Yep, I agree. All right, awesome. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Hartzell. So when we were in elementary school, we were always taught that Columbus was such a great guy and he was such a hero until we got to y'all's classes where we learned
ruined that for you.
Yes, where we learned he was not. So my question is, how far should history teachers go to reshape their curriculum based on the sensitivity of their students?
We should not. We should just hammer you
Yeah.
every day with insensitive information so that
Okay.
we can toughen you
The
up and
harsh
get you ready for the
truth
world.
all the time.
Were you not listening to what I said a while ago? Failure
At
is
2
an
years
option.
old, you just lay it on them.
No.
Here's what
Yes.
life is like. Good luck. No, I think there is an appropriateness age level thing going on.
Yeah.
And Columbus, you teach the good, you teach the bad, why he was courageous, why he wasn't. He wasn't exceptionally bad for his time, in a way, but he has been that's been ignored, and he's just been celebrated for so long that sometimes students, when they get to us, they didn't even know he did some of the things he did.
Go ahead, Nixon. I'm sorry.
I was going to say is Jude here because that is his refrain. It was a different time back then. I don't think he's here. But I think context matters. I still think Columbus is pretty bad.
Can we argue, regardless of, and I will second what you guys are saying, that he did some, by modern standards, horrific things to innocent people who were there just kind of living their lives. He did that with a clear conscience, though, and I think that's interesting. Like, so, rather than stand here and go, well, we must hate Columbus or we must love Columbus, first things first. Okay, so we can look at him in his context, and he believed that he was doing God's work. He believed that he was spreading Christianity. He believed that it was his responsibility to take people and to manipulate them if they couldn't control themselves, that we had to organize them and get them to be efficient, hardworking people. Like, that was all those things that he was trying to get across. So I think that he would have died with a clear conscience, thinking that this is the best of all worlds. I did what I could, and if it didn't work out, then so be it. And maybe we had to hurt some people in the process. But, okay, so regardless of whether we think positive or negatively about that moment, I think that Columbus may stand alone as the singular most important person that ever lived.
Yes.
And here's why. Because I know this was an accident, but it still was the accomplishment. He's the one who did this. He reunited two halves of the human species that had been isolated from each other for a long time.
10 to
right?
15,000
And I mean,
years.
we can talk about
discovering a new planet.
We can talk about because what about the Vikings? Yeah, well, the Vikings didn't stay, and their stuff just kind of was in their own little realm, and it didn't spread out, and nobody else really came after that. But because of Columbus's stumbling into this, the connection was linked finally, and it has not been severed. We created a global community. Again, good or bad, the global community itself reunited after so many years of isolation, and then that dynamic is interesting, which brings us to all the things that we have. And so would somebody else have done it? Sure, I could have talked about them in that matter. But I think ultimately, I don't know of anybody else who on purpose or accidentally did anything that's more significant in human history.
Yeah, that's my top most significant event to ever happen. The Columbian discovery, followed by the exchange that went on of everything.
It's a good question.
Okay.
All right, roll on.
Sorry we ruined Columbus for you.
Hi, I'm Hayes Horton. I think I asked this last year, but I'd like to hear your thoughts now.
We've grown since then, man.
Absolutely. So with the primaries coming up, who do you guys think has the best chance among the Democrats?
A moderate?
Yeah, I mean, this has been something hotly contested lately in the Democratic side. Do you go with the electable guy which is Joe, right? Just call me Joe. Or do you take a step out of your comfort zone if you're a Democrat and go toward the left? I don't honestly know the answer to that. I've gone back and forth, but I really do think that as many gaffes as he's made, I think Biden is the most electable, if you believe in that. I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Oh, man. It's so tough to think about who might actually come up with the nomination. Because somebody may rise, We've seen some people drop out. I think there's only like 800 of them now. So a few have gone. We've whittled it down. We've narrowed the field.
If you want intelligence, Andrew Yang is your dude.
Yeah.
If you want a smart dude that's really... Now, nobody knows who he is. He's too complicated for people to understand, so he probably doesn't have a shot.
Well, and he told the coast to basically move inland when he was asked about global warming,
he was a little
so that's
too honest,
not great.
So.
But look, the Democratic debate is tonight, so 7 to 10. So after we're finished, tune in and listen to these people.
There's a lot of people that voted for Trump in the Midwest that automation was taking their jobs, and he promised he's bringing. He didn't do that. So if you can get the centrist, those people that are not happy that they didn't get their job back, that they're not, all the promises that were made. Now he did cut taxes, he did do some things, but there's a lot of people that voted for him that are not happy. And if you can get that centrist group, and the only way you get them is with a moderate Democrat, not one of the left.
What I'd like to see happen, though, as we get closer to the Democratic National Convention, is that the people who have the ideas aside from what we think about the front runners, about Biden and Sanders, and who's the next one in there somewhere?
Biden, Sanders, Warren, Harris, Buttigieg are the top 5 polling right now.
Yeah, but you see people like Kamala Harris, and she's got some interesting things to say. She's got a strong professional career, but I don't know. Like, it's weird that if you're seeking information about some of these other candidates, it's hard to find. Nobody spends a lot of time broadcasting the same way. So not Biden's name, whether it's a positive or a negative story, his name's out there a lot. And then somehow or another, the others get washed away. Their voices get drowned out by some of this other stuff, and they don't go to that because, again, it's ratings, whatever. They're trying to get people to pay attention. Can he do it? But no, I haven't heard good things from other people because I haven't heard from other people as much as I've heard about them. So I don't know if there's like some sort of blockage in the system where we can't get equal time for the candidates regardless of where they're from and which side of the line they're on. Like I really would love to see more information flowing out about what they would actually do. I like to hear that, and I haven't so far.
It's way too early. My prediction is that Trump is going to win re-election. And the reason I say that probably is because the Republicans are good at uniting behind him, which they are, and Democrats with the cancel culture, and they're going to eat themselves alive before the general election. And I just, Democrats have never been good at uniting behind one person. So,
yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that with one caveat. If there's a recession, I think he loses.
I agree with that. So, I think the whole thing, and it could be, very well could be. All right. We've got time for a couple more. All right.
Okay.
First one.
First Amendment has to stay. Yeah.
And specifically, freedom of speech. I mean, what's the...
the right to assemble is worthless without this freedom of speech.
So is religion, in a way.
Yeah. I go with the First Amendment for sure.
They say we were wrong because they've been brainwashed by this guy.
True.
That's what you say too.
Who listens to a lawyer about the law? Come on, listen to us.
Crazy.
All right.
Go ahead, Nixon. Ruin our dreams.
I say freedom of speech because I like to talk. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Fifth Amendment is probably the better answer because of the due process clause in the Fifth Amendment. And so, since Congress is...
Oh, wait a minute. Is that where habeas corpus is?
No, but it's due process, the idea that the government has to act or is supposed to act reasonably and not be arbitrary and capricious. It could be expanded to cover almost all of the other amendments. Because if you look at Article 1, power of Congress, it's limited. So you would have to ask yourself, does Congress have the power to pass those laws anyway? And are they acting in an arbitrary or capricious manner in doing so? So it's kind of technical on that end. But
we're going to bow down to your knowledge.
You can argue in a lot of them.
Summarize the Fifth Amendment for us, the due process. Just kind of tell us what that...
Yeah, well, it's one of the two due process clauses in the Constitution. And so, the 14th Amendment being the other one. And the Supreme Court has ruled that the Fifth Amendment mirrors the 14th Amendment, so all the protections from, they're reciprocal. So everything protected is in one is protected in the other. So look, if you really had to pare down 9 amendments and only keep one, you could take a really broad reading of due process.
So at the time that it was passed, did it cover everyone?
No.
So freedom of the speech is the thing that got everybody covered.
His argument was a little more eloquent than mine, though. I was like, I like to talk, and he's like spouting out all these official things. Yeah, so.
Yeah, but if you take a literal reading of the First Amendment, it says Congress shall make no law and so that wouldn't include the states.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, Yvonne Rodriguez, and my question is, what kind of correlation is there between the U.S. involvement in the political scene in Latin America, especially in Venezuela and Colombia, and the issues that are happening today?
That is a big bad boy question.
That was multi-layered. Say it again so I can. No.
So what kind of correlation is there between the U.S. involvement that there was in Latin America a long time ago and the political scene in Venezuela and the issues they're having today?
Okay. So we worked exceptionally hard to live up to the idea of we're going to control this side of the planet, the whole Monroe Doctrine thing, and we're going to try to keep everybody off this side, Europeans in particular. This is our realm. This is our right. So I'll try to be brief, but the idea that we worked very hard. No, I can't be brief. Okay, so when we have I have to back up to tell the story to go forward. When Napoleon was doing what he was doing in Europe, and that caught them up in his battles, it freed up the people here in the Americas, the ones that were controlled by Spain, to be able to finally launch themselves against the status quo, and they all went into rebellion starting around 1810, 1811, and ending around 1822. So somewhere in that area. So as those new groups rose up and took power, what were they going to be? And we needed to try to find a way to protect them from the Europeans who wanted to come back in and take them out. They're rising up, and they need. What do they have? Do they have industry? No, Spain didn't build any industry other than mining. Do they have transportation systems? No. Did they have a way to stand up for themselves? The Grand Colombian idea that you have this large area at the top that could unite under a confederacy didn't work out either, so it all falls apart. We stepped in as potential saviors, but at the same time, we created a dependency there so that they would end up funneling their resources to us, and then we controlled the industries that were being built. That was the trade-off. We'll protect you, but we get to control most of the wealth and finances. And we set up governments that were basically, I don't want to say puppets, but they were under our guidance for a lot of that. Okay, step that out to a more modern time, and there's still a tremendous amount of development that needs to happen in several countries industrially. We saw a lot of countries that went into what we call sort of a socialist programming, where you either had a dictatorial guy who ran it like a military camp, or you had a socialist group that rose up to try to challenge them, which we then got involved in to try to stop because we don't like the word socialism because it sounds like communism, and we try to beat that out of them, and that doesn't work either. Multiple civil wars that end up taking a lot of people out. That also fractured the system and made it weak. The current situation, like, we keep kind of stepping into this. You know, they're real sensitive about our imperialism, whether we like to call it that or not. They do. And they're like, look, every time you do something here, like, we're happy for your help, but we really don't need you. We're trying to step up on our own. And so if we threaten to go into Venezuela to try to replace the leadership, like, do we need to go and we just accused Russia of interfering in our elections, and yet we want to do the same thing in Venezuela? You can see how anything that we might do to push for change in those areas might be seen by the people as us trying to get in there and do the same thing that we've done for over 100 years in those areas, and there's a lot of resentment that still exists. Like, I think the best thing we could do is to say that we're going to be a good neighbor. We've tried that before.
FDR.
Try to be a good neighbor and say we're going to support whichever system comes up so that we can do a better job of supporting more people to give them a better standard of living. As far as trying to go down there and say, you must do this and you must do that, I think that's a gigantic problem that's going to blow up in our face.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah,
Okay,
what we did in the Middle East, we did to Latin America first. Okay, next.
I'm Hayden Ringgold, and I was wondering if you think the Soviet Union could have taken on the Third Reich by themselves without the Allies' help.
No.
No. Wait, the third.
No.
I'll explain that in class tomorrow.
Yeah, no.
My name is Sam Herdlicka, and I have a question regarding the Dutch East Indies. Why is it never talked about in classrooms?
The Dutch East India Company, like trying to go
until we get around their independence, which just kind of ties into all of decolonization.
Well, the Dutch tried and failed to find an eastern route to India through the ice, and then they created the Dutch West India Company and tried to find a northwest passage. That didn't work either. So they founded New York, or called it New Amsterdam, until the English stared them down and took it from them. Oh, by the way, I learned this, and I said this in class to somebody, maybe y'all. The population, the Dutch couple, 1 million people are direct descendants of a couple from the Netherlands.
Man, that's prolific.
That is prolific. And they themselves didn't have a ton of kids, but their kids all had a ton of kids. but this is when people were getting healthier too. So it's in the book, but it's not. If you're talking about Dutch East India trying to set up, and for my class, the Dutch didn't pay much attention to the Americas, but they were messing around all over, Asia. So world history, probably AP world.
We touch on that in AP world where they were jumping out there. The Portuguese were the first to come around Africa. The Dutch followed closely afterwards. They're setting up things along the ports of Africa. They bounce on over to India. They have a few things there. They bounce on over into the Indies and start setting up. They do own several of the islands. But they are quickly overshadowed by the larger entities, Spain, France, England. Portuguese hangs on there for a while. But they go through a dramatic shift at home. They change how they do their politics there, and they undermine their own stability. They didn't focus enough on trying to really feed their empire at home, and they diminished. They cut their own throats politically, and the next thing you know, everybody else takes your stuff, and now you're left with a few things. So it's not really empire like we think about other empires necessarily. Like, they had some stuff, but it never was going to, because they didn't control themselves at home, right? That self-sufficiency, when you have these larger entities doing a really good job of that, they decentralized, which is a major problem for them. So,
but they gave us Rembrandt, and that's enough during the golden age of the Dutch. Yes.
Okay, I'm Lauren Boston. I have a generic question, but do you feel like the ACT is a good measurement of teens' intelligence?
Intelligence? Well, there's all sorts of types of intelligence. It measures how good a college you'll get into. But I wouldn't say
intelligence. No, skill level. Yes.
Okay. I'm mainly asking because we rely on it so much. Like, in order to get into a good college, you have to have a high score, and there's a lot of intelligent kids out there, but they may not get into that honors program or a scholarship, and they have the harder way.
Yeah, I think if the question is there an over-reliance on it, then absolutely yes. Does it measure what it's supposed to? I think arguably yes as well. But those are kind of maybe different things.
Yeah, I guess I'm more asking, do we rely on it too much?
I think so.
Yes, and there's nothing that says it's the best thing either for measuring success in college. There's plenty of people that scored. I mean, I had a student that scored a 32, went to college, failed, dropped out. So you just
right.
There's other factors that make success.
I'll give you a
college
prime example of that too. I feel that I'm fairly intelligent. I made a 19 on the ACT, and I took it twice. They didn't hammer it on us like they do with you guys. I didn't take any prep classes. They was like, you should go take this test. I was like, okay. I took it twice. Both times I made a 19, and I was like, okay, done. That's as good as it got. So I actually had to take in math specifically. I had to take lower level math and move myself up to college algebra there. But does that make me if I go back to the actual question you asked, is it a good measure of intelligence? No. I mean, I sucked at that test. I didn't take that test well, but that doesn't mean that I'm an unintelligent person, right? But I didn't have the skills. That's definitely true. I needed to develop those skills to be able to pass that test. I didn't have those skills at that time. Yeah.
This is why I suggest keeping your debt low, and the way it hooks into this is we make kids make super important decisions between 18 and 20. But if you keep your debt low, you can make changes later. As you grow, you decide to go back to college. You get in financial debt, and you're tied to a job, and then you did just pick a path. So keep your debt low, people. Freedom. Okay. We have one more question.
All right.
My name is Tao
There you
Jang. I'm going to be asking, who's the better teacher, Mr. Franklin or Mr. Nixon?
Hey.
Oh, Lord. What kind of question is that, Tao?
There's three of us up here, right?
I'll see if you'd have had me, then you'd know the answer. We wouldn't be asking this question.
All right, here is the answer. There is an answer. You ready? I am an expert at the things that I teach. Nixon is the expert in the things that he teaches. Pumphrey is the expert in the things that he teaches. I think that we are all the best teacher in our particular genre.
Yes, we would all get very mediocre quick if we had to all switch.
If I had to teach, US, I'm not going to do a great job at that because I don't know it as well as he does. He's taught it long enough to know the nuances of it. Nixon is a lawyer, so he knows everything about that. He's practiced for years before he came to teach. He's fabulous, and I am outstanding, as you know. That's a great way to wrap this up.
That is a great way. Hey, thanks everybody for coming out. Thank you, Collective Coffee, for having us out again. And good night.